It's about 4:20 in the afternoon on the last day of September 2015. I'm shooting this from the comfort of my car. Perhaps you can hear the flags that are blowing very strongly here at the Veterans Park on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base around the Oval. This is a beautiful and sacred spot to me and to many others. And it was 20 years ago on another day in September when we watched them lower the flag to close Plattsburgh Air Force Base officially. This park has been constructed in the interim. It's a nice place for ceremony, and one was being planned tonight to put the original flag that was brought down 20 years ago up on this flagpole and then take it down again with lots of speeches and so on. But it's been a blustery, cold, windy, 48-degree September 30th, 2015, and they've decided to move the ceremony tonight inside at the War of 1812 Museum, about a half a block from here. So I'm going to travel over there now and protect my little camcorder for Hometown Cable in our little corner from the wind and the rain, and bring you that ceremony from another space. In the meantime, if you're not familiar with what Plattsburgh Air Force Base was, its entire story, and my personal connection with it, I urge you to read the area media, pay attention to all the programs we've recorded, Calvin and I, through the years on and for Plattsburgh Air Force Base, and to just connect to the internet. There's lots of information available. Stay tuned for the 20th anniversary of the closing of the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Well, it's a lot better in here. The only wind inside this building is coming out of my mouth right now. Gordy Little for Hometown Cable inside the Battle of Plattsburgh War of 1812 Museum. Keith Herkelo, the president of the organization. Plattsburgh Mayor Jim Kelman is here. We're going to move this entire 20th anniversary ceremony inside for some various speeches tonight. Former people from the air base are here. Various people that I know are here. Some people that I haven't seen for many years are here. We'll be going into the meeting room that I watched ever since this facility was opened some time ago. There is a flag here that was taken down 20 years ago that was to be put on the flagpole momentarily tonight as part of this ceremony, but that won't happen because, as I said at the outset of this program on the last day of September 2015, it's blowing a gale out there. It's still spitting rain, and if it gets much colder, maybe it'll be spitting snow, but it was 48 degrees when I came in a few minutes ago. But we'll be recording the entire ceremony. There'll be some very nice speeches and memories, and I've had already private messages on Facebook from people who were stationed here many years ago who are planning to be here tonight for this ceremony and renew some acquaintances with me. So stay tuned to Hometown Cable. And it's just about time for the ceremony to begin inside the War of 1812 Museum meeting room to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the closing of Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Gordy Little for Calvin Castine and Hometown Cable. We've had a chance to chat with a few of the people who come back for this commemoration ceremony, and it's a pleasure to be here, but it brings back some of the very, very sad memories of how hard we fought.
In just a moment, so if folks in the back would like to take a seat, this is a good time. There's still some good seats available. It's just like church. We fill it from the back forward.
That doesn't mess up your white balance there.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. 20 years ago today, Plattsburgh Air Force Base was closed with a formal ceremony, ending 40 years of continuous service as a Strategic Air Command and later an Air Mobility Command base. Today, the Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum and its volunteer staff, along with several veteran service organizations, wish to observe that 20th anniversary of the closure. I'm retired Lieutenant Colonel Frank Berry, the curator of the Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum. After serving two tours at Plattsburgh myself, when I retired from the Air Force in 1993, my wife and I moved back to Plattsburgh here and have lived there ever since. At this point, I would like to ask all who are able to stand for the presentation of the colors, the national anthem, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Color Guard, post the colors. At this point, I will ask Father Clyde Lewis to pray the invocation.
Please be seated. Let us pray. O God, on this occasion of the observance of the 20th anniversary of the closure of Plattsburgh Air Force Base, we ask your presence and invoke your name. You guided us in the founding of this base and guided its vibrant life over 40-plus years. It was a beacon of hope during the Cold War, and its men and women served its mission admirably well. By this Plattsburgh Air Force Base presence, you helped enrich the environment of this great city of Plattsburgh, New York, and gave to its citizens a grand thrust of new life. These heroic visitors soon became very involved as citizens as well, and contributed to the great quality of life that is the hallmark of our North Country. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your guidance over the life of Plattsburgh Air Force Base. We ask your continued guidance as we continue to move forward. May you continue to help us remember this historic period of our city and give due regard and respect to those who served so well. We ask you this, dear Lord, you who give us all that we need. Amen.
Thank you, Father Clyde. Our first speaker this evening is retired Lieutenant Colonel Peter Glushko, who also served at Plattsburgh Air Force Base and retired in our area. I worked with him during our time in the Air Force together and recently learned that at the closure ceremony back in 1995, he recounted the history of Plattsburgh Air Force Base. He accepted our invitation to do the same for us now. So I'm glad to introduce Pete Glushko, a friend, a fellow Air Force retiree, and the current supervisor of the town of Peru. Peter.
Thank you all. It's my honor to be here to once again read the history. Now this wing history is an amended and abridged version. The original that I read at the closing ceremony is buried under 20 years of stuff. So,
Can't find it.
good luck. The distinguished and colorful career of the 380th dates back to October 28, 1942, when the unit was established. The 380th Bombardment Group Heavy was activated on November 3, 1942 at Davis-Monthan Field, Tucson, Arizona. Originally, the 380th Bomb Group consisted of 4 bombardment squadrons, the 528th, 529th, 530th, and 531st. Shortly after being activated, the group moved to Biggs Field, El Paso, Texas, where it underwent extensive combat training. After completing training, the 380th Bomb Group moved to Lowry Field, Denver, Colorado to undergo the final combat training. In early May 1943, the group arrived in the Northern Territory of Australia. The 380th Bomb Group was the only B-24 unit attached to the Royal Australian Air Force and was assigned to the Darwin area in the Northern Territory to secure Australia's safety against threatened Japanese invasion. Upon its arrival in Australia, the 380th Bomb Group immediately began combat operations. During April and May 1944, the 380th engaged in the most intensive and sustained operations since arrival in the Southwest Pacific, neutralizing the rear bases through which the Japanese might reinforce their air forces. For its action in combat in an area of over 1 million square miles, the 380th received 2 Distinguished Unit Awards, played a major role in bringing about the destruction of the Japanese Empire. After cessation of hostilities, the 380th flew reconnaissance patrols over the Japanese islands and ferried released prisoners of war to Manila. On October 18, 1945, the unit was transferred to the 7th Air Force, where it participated in the Sunset Project, the return of B-24s and their crews to the United States. The 380th Bombardment Group remained inactive from February 20, 1946 until its redesignation from heavy to very heavy on May 13, 1947. On May 29, 1947, the group was activated at MacDill Field, Tampa, Florida as a reserve unit. The group remained an inactive reserve unit until being called to active duty on May 1, 1951. 15 days later, on May 16, 1951, after the personnel had been processed for active duty and transferred to other units for service in the Korean War, the group was deactivated. The 380th Bombardment Wing Medium was activated at Plattsburgh Air Force Base, Plattsburgh, New York on July 11, 1955. At the same time, the 528th, 529th, and 530th Bombardment Squadrons were also activated. During July and August, the personnel assigned to the wing arrived in Plattsburgh. In December 1955, the first B-47 was assigned to the wing, but instead of being flown to Plattsburgh, was delivered to Pinecastle Air Force Base, Florida, at Det 1 380th Bomb Medium Wing because of the delays in completing the facilities at Plattsburgh. The first B-47E arrived on March 21, 1956, piloted by Brigadier General Kenneth O. Sanborn, first commander of the 820th Air Division headquartered at Plattsburgh Air Force Base. The aircraft was christened City of Plattsburgh the next day. In September 1956, the 380th Air Refueling Squadron, flying the KC-97s, was transferred to Plattsburgh Air Force Base from Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas. The wing was declared combat ready on October 1, 1956. In 1959, the 380th Bomb Wing at Forbes, the 308th, Bomb Wing at Forbes Air Force Base, Kansas, began its transition from B-47s to Titan II missiles. It was to become the 308th Strategic Missile Wing. Most of its aircraft were sent to Plattsburgh, where they were incorporated into the 380th Bomb Wing. The 380th became SAC's only super wing from July 1959 to June 1960. It had 70 B-47s and 40 KC-97s. On September 15, 1964, the 380th Bombardment Wing was redesignated the 380th Strategic Aerospace Wing Heavy and was composed of 3 B-47 squadrons, 528th, 529th, and 530th, the 380th Air Refueling Squadron, 556th Strategic Missile Squadron, 380th Combat Support Group, and the 820th Medical Group. On September 18th, the wing received its first KC-135A. Plattsburgh Air Force Base had the only ICBM missile ever deployed east of the Mississippi River. During 1961 and 1962, the physical appearance of the area surrounding Plattsburgh Air Force Base underwent changes as construction began on 12 Atlas F missile sites. The sites were built within 50 miles radius of the base and were completed in 1963. All sites were in New York State except for 2 located on the other side of Lake Champlain in Vermont. The 556th Strategic Missile Squadron, formerly assigned to Dow Air Force Base, Maine, was transferred to Plattsburgh on October 1st, 1961, and became completely operational on December 20th, 1962. This was the last Atlas Squadron to be accepted and the only intercontinental ballistic missile base east of the Mississippi River. The 556th last operational day was April 30th, 1965, with the squadron's deactivation on June 25th of that year. To replace the B-47s, the wing was assigned the B-52G Stratofortress bomber, and the first B-52G to arrive was christened Champlain Lady on June 19, 1966. 529th and 530th Bombardment Squadrons were inactivated on June 25, 1966. Another new unit was assigned to the wing on June 25, 1967, the 310th Air Refueling Squadron. The wing's involvement in the Vietnam War was one of temporary duty assignments. Tanker and bomber crews of the 380th were temporarily assigned to the Pacific Theater in support of B-52 arc light missions and KC-135 Young Tiger operations. The KC-135 crews and aircraft supported Southeast Asia operations from October 1966 until 1973. The B-52 squadron served from 1968 until 1970. The stay of the B-52s assigned to the 380th was destined to be short. In 1968, plans were initiated to bring the Air Force's newest strategic aircraft to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, the FB-111A. In October 1970, the phase-out of the B-52s assigned to the 380th SAW began when the first aircraft was transferred to Fairchild Air Force Base, Washington. The last B-52G left Plattsburgh Air Force Base January 5, 1971. 529th Bombardment Squadron Medium was reactivated January 1, 1971. Construction requirements for the new FB-111 were completed in 1969. Colonel G.R. Abendoff, 380th Bomb Wing Commander, and Lieutenant Colonel Eugene W. Loy, 4007 CCTS Commander, piloted the first FB-111A to the base during open house ceremonies on July 17, 1971. On August 1, 1971, Det 1 of the 4007 CCTS was activated to instruct the combat crews in a sophisticated system that equipped the FB-111A. On June 6, 1972, the SAC Inspector General declared the wing totally prepared to implement the emergency war order mission. During 1971, Det 18 44th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron was activated on the base to support the FB-111 program by maintaining rescue and fire control alert. On July 1, 1972, the 380th Strategic Aerospace Wing Heavy was redesignated the 380th Bombardment Wing Medium and was declared operational with the FB-111A. As part of the SAC-wide move to give munitions maintenance squadrons the same numerical designations as the wing to which it was assigned, the 40th MMS was inactivated and the 380th MMS activated October 1, 1972. The first mission of a wing's FB-111A equipped with the short-range attack missile took place on April 20, 1973. On the same day, SAC headquarters announced that 10 KC-135 aircraft were to be relocating to Plattsburgh Air Force Base from Westover Air Force Base, Massachusetts by September. June 1973 saw the arrival of the HH-1H Huey assigned to Det 18. On July 26, 1973, the first of 20 KC-135Q models to arrive at Plattsburgh from McCoy Air Force Base landed at the base. During the 1974 Strategic Air Command's bombing and navigation competition, the FB-111 and KC-135 crews from the 380th combined their effort with the support personnel to prove to be the best of the best in earning the Fairchild Trophy for the highest combined bomber and tanker scores during the competition. The 380th Bomb Wing was the first wing equipped with the FB-111A to win the competition and would dominate again in the years to come. The 380th Bomb Wing was recognized for exceptionally meritorious service from July 1st, 1974 to June 30th, 1975, and received the Air Force Outstanding Unit Award. In 1978, the wing won the Fairchild Trophy for the fourth consecutive time, a SAC record. In 1978, a Plattsburgh tanker crew had the honor of flying the last in-country air refueling mission in Thailand and participate in the redeployment of F-4s from Thailand under Coronet Climax. 380th Bomb Group was inactivated and consolidated with the 380th Bomb Wing by order of the Secretary of the Air Force on January 31st, 1984. As the year progressed, the 380th once again proved itself worthy of its motto, best of the best, as it achieved an unprecedented fifth Fairchild Trophy at the annual SAC Bombing and Navigation Competition. In addition to winning the Fairchild, which established a record of 5 trophies for one unit, the wing captured its second Saunders Trophy for the Best Air Refueling Unit and the Best FB-111 Crew Award. The Omaha Trophy for the Best Overall SAC Wing for the 1984 calendar year was awarded to the wing on July 11th. In 1985, the 380th Bomb Wing received the Pinnacle Award for SAC wings. In 1985, the 380th Bomb Wing had more assigned aircraft than any other SAC wing. Plattsburgh Air Force Base was the home of 2 FB-111 squadrons, the 528th and 529th, 2 KC-135A squadrons, the 310th and 380th, and a 4007 CCTS responsible for training all SAC FB-111A pilots and navigators. Other units of the wing included the 380th Organizational Maintenance Squadron, 380th Munitions Maintenance Squadron, 380th Field Maintenance Squadron, 380th Transportation Squadron, 380th Supply Squadron, 380th Combat Support Group, 380th Mission Support Squadron, and the USAF Hospital. During the summer of 1988, a full complement of the 380th Bomb Wing deployed for the first time since World War I. Over 300 men and women deployed to a forward operating base in support of Mighty Warrior 88, a SAC-wide exercise held to better enable the various SAC wings to carry out their respective missions under austere conditions. In September 1990, crews from both air refueling squadrons combined with personnel from other units to form the 1703rd Air Refueling Wing Provisional in Saudi Arabia, supporting Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. During that year, Plattsburgh became the host for the Tanker Task Force, previously at Pease Air Force Base, and assumed the responsibility for planning and providing air refueling for all TAC unit movements. Tanker Task Force ferry missions, military airlift command missions, European Tanker Task Force deployers and redeployers, and other missions directed by Headquarters SAC and 8th Air Force. The 380th Bomb Wing began retiring its FB-111As in 1990, and one half of the SAC FB-111A force was retired by December 31st, 1990. On July 10, 1991, Strategic Air Command and the 380th Bomber Wing said goodbye to the FB-111 when the last 4 operational aircraft left Plattsburgh Air Force Base for their final flight to preservations in museums. Colonel McNichols took part in that one. The 380th Bomb Medium Wing was redesignated the 380th Air Refueling Wing a few days earlier on July 1st, 1991. The mission of the 380th Air Refueling Wing was to provide worldwide air refueling with its KC-135A/Qs and serve as host of the Tanker Task Force operations. 380th ARW Tanker Task Force was responsible for supporting most of the transoceanic operations on the East Coast. 380th ARW participated in the 34th and final SAC bombing and navigation competition in April 1992. Nicknamed Proud Shield 92, the competition demonstrated bomber and tanker capabilities, procedures, tactics, and concepts. Proud Shield featured 21 active duty SAC units along with 6 Air Force Reserve units, 9 Air National Guard units, and 1 Tactical Air Command unit. Team Plattsburgh placed a strong second among the 24 competing for the Saunders Trophy. On June 24, 1993, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission voted to close Plattsburgh Air Force Base and give a new air mobility wing to McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey. 380th Air Refueling Wing controlled the 42nd Air Refueling Squadron at Loring, Maine, the 509th Air Refueling Squadron at Griffiths Air Force Base, New York, and the European Tanker Task Force, which provided operational refueling to England and Saudi Arabia. The 380th ARW deployed for the last time to participate in Crisis Look 94 from McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey in March 1994. More than 450 wing members from Plattsburgh and Griffiths deployed for the exercise, testing the wing's ability to mobilize, deploy, and operate in a bare base environment. The wing deployed a total of 13 tankers, 6 from Plattsburgh and 7 from Griffiths. During 1994, Plattsburgh Air Force Base and Air Mobility Command continued to support NATO aircraft patrolling the skies over Bosnia-Herzegovina as part of Operation Deny Flight. Air crews and support personnel from the 380th Air Refueling Wing and the 509th Air Refueling Squadron deployed to Istres Air Base, France, and Pisa Air Base, Italy, to provide aerial refueling for the operation. Plattsburgh's long relation with the KC-135 came to an end when the 380th ARW bid farewell to the 2 flying squadrons. The activation ceremony took place on September 26, 1994, in the presence of Brigadier General Tom Pilch, 21st Air Force Commander, and Colonel Christopher Kelly, 380th Operations Group Commander. Both the 380th and the 310th Air Refueling Squadrons and the 380th Ops Group were officially deactivated that day. Shortly after, Colonel Robert E. Dawson, last 380th ARW Commander, boarded the last KC-135 stationed on the base and flew the last mission of the 380th ARW. With special guests and representatives of the local media, the aircraft took air refueling track 204 southwest to Loring Air Force Base, Maine, and headed down the Maine coast, where it hooked up with 2 B-52s. After the aircraft left, the only mission for the 380th ARW was the closure of the base, set for December 1995. Plattsburgh Air Force Base was officially closed on September 30th, 1995, as a result of the 1993 defense closure and realignment actions. Closure ceremony took place on September 29th with New York Congressman John M. McHugh, Ronnie A. Coleman, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Manpower, Reserve Affairs, Installations, and Environment, Lieutenant General Edwin E. Tenoso, 21st Air Force Vice Commander, and Colonel Robert E. Dawson, 380th Air Refueling Wing Commander, as its guests of honor.
Thanks, Pete. Our second speaker this afternoon is retired Colonel Joseph McNichols. Joe served for many, many years at Plattsburgh Air Force Base and also selected this area for retirement. I first got to know Joe when we were both student pilots learning to fly the FB-111 here at Plattsburgh. Starting out as a KC-135 crew member before coming to the FB-111s, Joe served in many ways, including duty as the 380th Operations Group Commander. Joe's also one of the core members of our Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum staff, a good friend and a neighbor in Cliff Haven, where both our families live. May I present Joe McNichols.
Hi, I'm Joe McNichols, like Frank says. A retired Air Force colonel whose last job here was the 380th Air Refueling Wing's Operations Group Commander. Spent over 18 years at Plattsburgh Air Force Base. I came here in 1972 as a first lieutenant. Coming out of Vietnam, I left here in '93 as a full colonel. Pretty good assignment all at one place. Pete Klushko, Frank and I were gonna wear our uniforms to the ceremony tonight, but somehow they shrank when they were in the closet. Okay, we all know about the horrible political decision to close Plattsburgh. It made no operational sense at all. It was truly a death in the family. Local officials pondered reuse issues to offset the economic impact of losing the base and the money it generated for the local economy. The numbers vary, but the ones we've looked up were, it was about 9,000 people, military, civilians, and the dependents, and somewhere around $120 million in economic impact. Depending upon who you listen to, this area has rebounded and is a model for reuse nationwide. I'm not sure if I believe the first part of that, but it is a reuse for the nationwide model. One area that has not rebounded is the number of people in Clinton County. When the base was open, we were up at about 27, 28,000, somewhere around 22,000 in the area now. The base brought diversity to the area, and I don't just mean ethnic diversity. Military families lived all across the world and across America. They brought different experiences with them. They shared a different cultural experience and a different point of view in many cases. I had a bunch of university professor friends that we would ski with. I was called the loyal opposition when I was with those folks. The school sports programs benefited from soccer players who returned to Plattsburgh from Germany and England, and football players that came into us from Texas and Nebraska. The local community treated the military as neighbors and as friends. Father Clyde's dad, Clyde Lewis, established the Air Base Liaison Committee, and it was a model of local support to a military base. The locals were assigned to squadrons and staff positions as honorary commanders and joined in military functions and social events. I'll name just a few of them. Roger Forrance, Danny Adams, Bill McBride, Jerry Kelly, Henry Fort, and Dick Hecker. They made the assignment at Plattsburgh Air Force Base one of the most coveted in the Air Force. But having to attend a Clyde Lewis testimonial was somewhat of a different event. Most Air Force people that were assigned here still to this day consider it their best assignment. The mission was great. The base always performed extremely well in its job. On and off base housing was really good. If we get rid of February, it would be really nice. Many people stayed in the local area, either because after their military commitment was up or they retired to the area. I'm going to mention about 50 names of the folks I could come up with off the top of my head that live in the area. I won't get all of you. I apologize to those that I missed. I'm going to start with Dr. Bill Calvin, a good friend of mine who was the base dentist here, got reassigned to McGuire Air Force Base when this base closed. He retired out of McGuire. He didn't stay in New Jersey. He came back to Plattsburgh to open up High Peaks Dental. Now I'm going to go through some of the names of the folks that are here. I'll start off with our museum gang. We have Robin Claudel from the Press Republican who works with our museum. Scott Johnson, Pat Andrews, Henry Worster, myself, and Frank Berry are the guys that basically play with the museum most of the time. Some of the other locals, I'm just going to go through the last names. Knutson, DeLucas, Jones, Ward, Ginrich, Hilchey, Coakley, Wolf, Broughton, Burr, Bennell, Gibson, Sondell, Moody, Ray, Gary Liberty, Walpole, Gallinger, Tobin, Stevenson, John, Flynn's, Green, Lee, Rotz, Kramer, Skillen, Ernst, O'Connor, Connor, Hatch, Grazer, Russell, DeForge, Tim Horn, another museum guy, Tommy Forkham, Les Brackett, the last B-52 pilot to fly the airplane out of here, Steve Bacon, Trippy, Burkish, Kozak, Bob Johnson, Roy Soderberg, can't forget him either now, I hope, Corbett, Mason, Bob Johnson, Phillips, Dayton, Hepburn, Bush, Lawrence, Gray, Prather, Hughes, Carpenter, Perry, Jackson, Sanford, and I could keep going, but I just wanted to list some of the names of the folks that we could think of that are here because they're the important part of what the base heritage gave to the place. They stayed in this area because they liked the area and the people that were up here. I have a couple of propositions for our local schools that they offer a 2-day coverage of local history in their civics class or whatever it's called, social studies, so the next generation knows about the 40 years that occurred at this base. I bring that up because we had a neighborhood kid in the area that was telling me one day how happy he was and proud of the airport and the airfield that the Clinton County built out there. He did not know there was a base here. And he's like 16 years old, so that's shame on us for not keeping the locals informed on the thing. I have to transition to a shameless plug for our little Air Base Museum. It's the first building on the right across the street over there. Stop by, donate some items. We get everything from the people who clean out their basements. The wives are tired of looking at this stuff and make the guys cough it up. Give it to us, please, rather than throw it out. Money's always accepted. 20 years ago, Colonel Bob Dawson told the 380th Air Refueling Wing folks at the mission, he had a nice speech. The mission was complete, a job well done, and then he sat back down again. To that I'm going to add, you are the best, better than all the rest. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Joe, does your paper stack seem unusually thick?
No, there's yours.
Oh, thank you. Subtle, too. As Joe alluded to, one of the things that made Plattsburgh unique among all the Air Force bases that I've been stationed at was the good relationship we had between the city, the town, the county, and the air base. So it would be only fitting now for our final speaker today to be Plattsburgh Mayor James Calnan. Jim is a native of Chateauguay who came to Plattsburgh to attend SUNY. After graduation, he and his family purchased a business in Plattsburgh, which he ran for several years. Jim then worked several positions in the public workforce system, including the creation of the One WorkSource centers in Clinton, Essex, Franklin, and Hamilton counties. After retiring as the director of the Workforce Investment Board, Jim has served nearly 7 years as a city councilor and became mayor of the city of Plattsburgh on January 1st, 2014. The Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum is proud to introduce Mayor James Calnan. We have the 6 o'clock council meeting to get to.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one too, so I'm going to talk for about an hour if that's all right. One of the really bad things about speaking last is many of the things you think you're going to say, somebody else got to before you did. And I really have to echo all of the comments that were made so far. Really, the base was a defining element of the city of Plattsburgh. It was our greatest recruitment tool. You know, Peter wouldn't have been here had he not come here as the base. Same for Joe. Same for just hundreds and hundreds of people in the community. And not having the base there, you know, harms us. It sets us back a little bit. The beauty of it is, of course, is that the folks who came here and loved it here are still here. My assistant is a proclaimed Air Force brat, as is one of my fellow counselors. You know, the effect of the base goes along a long way. Interesting that the biography, I'm not quite sure where that came from, but the full disclosure, the business that I was involved in was actually a pretty good sized business. It was a bar room. And it was on McKinley Avenue called Brody's, and for anyone who served here, it was very well known. So we had a very good personal relationship with many Air Force personnel over the years. On the other side of the coin, they talk about the fact that I was involved in the public workforce system. When the base closed, of course, one of the first things we looked at was how do we deal with the loss of jobs. And we really thought the challenge was going to be the 600 civilian jobs that were lost. As it turned out, it was a challenge, but it was not an insurmountable one. Actually getting 600 civilian jobs back did not take an awful long time. But what we missed is the point about how intertwined the community was with the base, was the base dependents, spouses and children, who were so involved in the rest of the community. Department heads in the hospital, you know, leaders of not-for-profit organizations, key employees in businesses throughout the community. So while we lost 600 jobs, we also lost thousands of people with talent. Thousands of people who really enriched our environment and made us a better place to locate a business, and obviously a much better place to live. Yes, I think in raw numbers, we have replaced the jobs. We have not replaced the spirit. The good news is, though, it hasn't gone away. The fact that we're an area that celebrates its history, particularly its military history, which goes back over 200 years. We celebrate our role in the Revolutionary War. We obviously celebrate our role in the War of 1812. The time of Plattsburgh Air Force Base existence here is another chapter in that. I agree that we need to be sure that it is remembered. That's why, and Joe's going to twist my arm a little bit because we're not fixing the airplanes up quite fast enough. We've got some repair work to do out here on the display. Why that needs to be a part of why we're here, and why we're so pleased that we're able to have the entire museum campus here. And in this particular instance, the Air Base Museum is a critical part of that. So, truly a very important part of our community, a very, very personal thing to just thousands and thousands of people here. And I can remember meeting the base commander for the first time when we were talking about base closure, and of course, his job was to see the mission was done. His job was to see that the things that Peter described happening on the base happened every day. But his concern was my people, civilians and active military personnel. And I've never met a man that I respected more, and never was happier to work with someone who really understood the value of the community, which included the base and civilians and everyone around us. So a very tight community, and I'm glad that we still celebrate the results of that. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although rain, cold, and wind kept us from holding the ceremony out of doors, I do want to speak for a moment about the American flag flying today on the central flagpole on the Oval in the Plattsburgh Barracks Veterans Memorial Park. This particular flag was the final flag to fly over the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. When the base closed on September 30th, 1995, this flag was flown, lowered, and folded, and presented to Mr. Clyde Lewis Sr. in recognition of his service in World War II, his advocacy in persuading the Air Force to build a base at Plattsburgh, his never-ending support of the base while it was open, and his determined efforts to keep it open. It was very fitting for that final flag to be presented to him. Today, that flag will be lowered once again, dried out as needed, folded, and presented to his son, Father Clyde Lewis, before being placed once again into the collection of the Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum. The Plattsburgh Air Force Base Museum would like to thank all who have participated in our program today. I'd especially like to thank our museum volunteers for helping with this program, and our speakers for taking the time to share their thoughts with us. I'd also like to thank Mr. Paul Dumas for the care he's given to the Oval and the flags in the Plattsburgh Barracks Veterans Memorial Park. Mr. Bill Long for providing our live bugle, our live trumpet solos for our ceremony. I'd also like to say thanks to a family that made a special trip here after their involvement in the original closure ceremony. Rick Currier and his family made the trip up from New Hampshire just to be with us today. I'd also like to thank the members of Peru VFW Post 309, American Legion Post 20 here in Plattsburgh, and American Legion Post 912 from Rouse's Point for their service and participation with us today. And lastly, I'd like to thank all the residents of the Plattsburgh area for their support during the time the base was open, and who came out to help us commemorate the 40 years the base was open and the 20 years since it is closed. Now, we're going to do something just a little bit different. Although the the weather was just too bad to hold this ceremony over at the flagpole, we would like to conclude it over there. But it's your option whether you join us or not. If you do join us at the Oval, we'll get in our cars and drive over. It'll take a few moments for everyone to get there. What will happen over there is our firing party will fire 3 volleys of rifle shots, and then taps will be played, recognizing all from Plattsburgh Air Force Base and all everywhere who have given their lives in the service to our country. So at this time, I'd invite all of you to join us, if you're able or choose to, over at the flagpole at the old base and we'll conclude our ceremony then. Thank you.
Colonel Joe, you had I don't call it breaking news. When I was in the radio, I called it a news bulletin. But many people are familiar with those planes. Nobody more familiar with the 111 than you.
It's true, especially that one.
We're so proud to have that, not only the static display of those two planes, but all these museums around here in the Plattsburgh. We're unique in that respect among all the bases I've seen in the country. So people have been talking about the deterioration of the planes. Nobody could be more grieved than you are. But other people don't have the resources to do something about it. So you got on your horse and got a plan underway. Tell us what it is.
2 weeks ago, we had our FB 111 reunion out in Dayton, Ohio. And I set up a meeting with the Air Force Museum staff the day before our reunion started. And they were kind enough to assemble all the right people for me. It was a group of about 5 or 6. And we met for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, in the museum talking about our 2 airplanes out there.
I love it.
And what we can do to fix them, keep them updated, etc. They gave me all the various tech orders that are required to fix them. We need their approval in a lot of cases to do things. We now have it. The mayor knows that I'm basically the point of contact between the city and the Air Force. We're going to assemble all the retired maintenance folks from the area, and we'll get to all the projects as soon as we can. We're going to first fix the canopy with like plexiglass, so it looks good, but in the spring we're going to redo them with like sheet metal and do it up correctly so that it lasts forever. We're going to get them washed off once a year by the fire department. They're too close to the road salt, and we all know we got to use salt around here. We're going to try to get the aeronautical school to do some sheet metal work. The city of Plattsburgh has some money that they're putting towards the project, so we'll provide the people through the local community, and they can provide the funds, and we're going to keep them going so that 40 years from now, my grandkids can say that was Grandpa's.
I love it. Colonel,
Thank you.
thanks so much for everything you've
You're
done.
welcome.
So the flag is being lowered. We shed a tear the last time, and we shed another one today. We hope this camera is more waterproof than it looks. We'll let you know, and if you're seeing this on Hometown Cable, you'll know we made it through. We didn't get here in time for the gun salute that was happening as we drove in. We wanted to speak with the Burgess family, some friends of mine whom I've known through social media for some time, who came back here to visit and to be part of this ceremony today. It's not a small task to fold a flag when the gale is blowing at up to 30 miles per hour, as you might imagine. We sure do appreciate hearing Pete and that history of Plattsburgh Air Force Base. I was connected with it from the 50s, working on construction as a high school senior and a college freshman. I was aware of the controversy when the proposal was made to build a base here and close Champlain College, but that was long before I was on the radio. And I came to the radio station in 1961 and thereafter had an opinion program, and that's what it was called, Opinion, where people expressed their views about having an air base in their midst. And we tried to orchestrate public opinion so that the coordination and the camaraderie between the community and the base was cemented on a positive note forever and ever. And as was mentioned tonight at the ceremony, that happened through the Base Liaison Committee. I'm sorry if the wind is having some problem with our microphones here tonight. There's nothing we can do about that. Mother Nature is taking care of that for us. So the flag is being folded. And you heard what its fate will be after this. We have fond memories of Father Clyde Lewis's father, Clyde Lewis, and the late Joe Bornstein. Having done a Hometown Cable, Our Little Corner interview with them and the late Clyde's office, that has remained historical, which many thousands of people have seen on Hometown Cable over the years. So we're delighted to have been part of this in kind of an auxiliary way, peripheral way through the years on the radio, and then with Calvin Castine on Hometown Cable. And it pleases me to be here with my little camcorder tonight. If it looks a little shaky, that's because it's in the mid-40s here. And it's not even dark yet, but the way the flags are flying, I think, will give you an idea. I just hope the sound is not too distorted, but we thank them for what they're doing. This is the best. And we'll present the flag to Father Clyde.
It is. Dad gave it to me, and so I gave it to them. All the other ones held in there that we had, you know, pictures. So, yes, very special.
It's got to dry out.
Yes.
I want to thank all the people who braved the elements, even those people who came thousands of miles to be with us here tonight.
Summer here. This is summer weather.
You're on Hometown Cable. It's
Hi.
Janine, right?
Yes,
And
Janine.
you are
Jerry.
Gary.
Jerry.
Jerry.
Jerry, it's okay.
I know your story.
Yeah,
I read it on Facebook, and so it's got to be true.
Is
it is true.
I know who you are too.
Yeah.
Glad to meet you. When are you going home?
Tuesday. We get driving into Albany, flying to Arizona.
You can't be all bad because you've read my ghost book. Have a good time up here. It's great to see you guys.
You too.
Go somewhere where it's warm, will you?
Go get some food now. Thank you, Brody.
See you
Nice to
later.
meet you, buddy.
Good to meet you guys. Thanks to all the people who came to the ceremony today. It's again the last day of September of 2015. 20th anniversary of the closing of Plattsburgh Air Force Base. A sad moment for me. A happy moment to meet all these people again, to see them here for this commemoration. And once again, Calvin and I have been coming here every time the Gulf Country Honor Flight gets our wonderful old veterans together and takes them down to their monuments down in the nation, around the nation's capital, and we'll be doing that again on Saturday morning, and it'll be October already. Thanks again. Please, if you like our programs and you have an opportunity, write a generous check. Calvin Castine and care of Hometown Cable, 1477 Ridge Road in Champlain. Make it as generous as possible so we can continue. Flag rising proudly again for what was Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.